You might think that if your pass reaches your teammate, it must be a good pass. That is actually the worst way to measure if your pass was good. But believe it or not, the best passes that you will make are more often than not the wrong ones. But the question that we're going to answer today is, how do you make the best out of the wrong decision? It's no doubt that there are a lot of different passes in football, but for the sake of this video, we're going to stick to three: the possession pass, the progression pass, and the elimination pass. And each one of these have their own purposes. The possession pass is the safest, and as the name suggests, is to keep possession of the ball. The ball is normally passed side to side to lure the defenders in and get them moving higher up the pitch. But more importantly, these passes are done to change the picture on the pitch. Holding onto the ball would mean that no players would actually move around and therefore no gaps will open up. But move the ball around and all of a sudden grown men and women start behaving like bees that have just been tipped off about a secret pollen stash. And ultimately on the pitch, space starts opening up elsewhere. The progression pass is to progress the ball forward. It may not necessarily be a pass forward, but the ball is passed around with the intention of moving it forward. This is different from the possession pass, where the intention of that pass is usually to draw defenders in. The best example of a progression pass is tiki-taka. The ball may not always move forward, but the intention of those passes is to be able to progress the ball forward. Which is why watching tiki-taka for the first time is like watching your younger sibling get caught in a game of monkey ball. The elimination passes are the passes that everyone wants to attempt. These are the line-breaking, threading the ball through the needle kind of pass that you know even if your life had depended on it, you wouldn't have spotted it. But somehow you still think that you'd be able to pull it off to perfection. The oblivion. The elimination pass differs from the progression pass because even though both passes aim to move the ball forward, one is a lot more direct than the other. Not to mention a lot riskier and requires a lot more technicality. Whenever we think of what makes a good pass, generally the criteria is somewhere along the lines of, did we lose the ball from that pass? Was that pass accurate? Did that pass look nice? And if I'm being honest and you really want your passes to look good and look expensive, forget technique, just try pouring some petrol on the ball and then hitting the pass. But when we think of players that play good passes, some of the names that come to mind are Kevin De Bruyne, Xavi, Iniesta, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Kara Walsh, Mariana Caljante, and so on. Sure, their passes were accurate, they rarely lost the ball, and for the most part, they were decent looking. But what really stands out and makes them good passes are the kind of passes that they played. And more often than not, these passes were the wrong passes. So this brings us to our two questions. What is a wrong pass? And if it's so wrong, why do these elite players play them? A wrong pass is simply a pass that could lead to a wrong consequence. If you make a pass, it gets intercepted, the opposition counters and they score a goal. 1. You either get yelled at by the person on the touchline. 2. You either get told off by your teammates. Or 3, if you're unlucky, both. And if you're really down in the dungeons, then your mistake becomes the coach's example for the next 3 training sessions. And most coaches, especially at the lower level, will try and limit you from making these passes because they fear loss of possession. Players at lower levels are probably not that enthusiastic to defend loose passes, and therefore the more rational option is to not take risky moves. Because let's be honest, some of these players treat defending like it's a side quest they can ignore. And although loss of possession is not great, no one asks the question, what actually happens when possession is lost? Which brings me to my second question. If these wrong passes are so wrong, why do these elite players play them? And the answer is actually simpler than you think. And it's because elite players understand that not every loss of possession leads to a counter, and even fewer lead to the opposition scoring. In fact, if you lose the ball in the opposition half, it actually pushes the game into the opponent half, meaning pressure is on them to not lose the ball because now you're closer to their goal. All of that, and of course their elite passing ability, which makes most of their passing accurate anyway. Now don't just go out there and spam all these wrong passes like you would when you're handed a controller to the PS4 game you have no idea on how to play. If your takeaway from this is that you should go out there and attempt 20 true balls in a game, that is not what I said, and you and me both know that. Instead, choose your moments and be braver with your wrong passes. The majority of passes that professionals make are also possession and progression passes. But when the time comes, they're also more willing to make that wrong decision. Thank you for watching. I hope you've gained something valuable from this video.